another Kobe. With that thought, I wonder, Justin, I know we don't want to get into rankings, and we're not going to, get real serious about this. I'm just wondering, is he the best Laker that's ever played? And I'm not asking because of LeBron. LeBron is not the best Laker. That's not where I'm going with this. I'm thinking Kareem, Magic, those types of guys. Is Kobe Laker number one?
It's a very short list. I think the fact that he played there his entire career, the success he had, I would have to think it would be down to Magic or Kobe. I would have to think of those two just because the length of time that Kobe played there and just the amount of love that is LA. Staples is his building. It's almost like the building that Kobe built. And I tell you, it would be a heck of a case to try to convince that he's not, because of just what you've seen today. And even with everything that's happened with Magic, even up until last year, and the way that things went down within the organization. And it wasn't like fans were out there clamoring for him. And I could see the flip side of that. If that was Kobe, I think there would have been an uproar. And I think that was one of the more interesting things of the Lakers are on this Grammy road trip. And that's where LeBron passed Kobe. I think it was going to be really, if it happened at home, how would the fans accept him passing their guy? I thought that was going to be one of the more intriguing spots this season if it played out that way, and it just didn't. But I think the LA fans, and I think you're seeing it today, sadly, and coming out in his passing, of just how devastated people really are. So I think, Eric, just based on that, I think Kobe might be the most popular Laker of all time. And I think the fact that he spent so many years there and his whole career was in that Laker uniform, and just the fact of how he went out, and that's the lasting image of people. I think it's between down to him or Magic for sure. And I probably would lean in Kobe's direction. What do you think?
I'm going to have to agree with all of that and have to say that probably recency bias plays a little bit into that, where,
oh yeah, for sure.
A lot of the people that would engage in this conversation now, I'll be honest, I was young when Magic Johnson was a superstar. So, I didn't get a chance to see Magic Johnson have the impact in me the way that Jordan and then Kobe and then LeBron did as a basketball fan. So recency bias plays some into that. But I do think just historically, with all of the cumulative statistics, the 5 championships, the fact that, like you said, he was there the whole time. And I will say that some things that are maybe more subjective, that don't necessarily count for anything in terms of what makes one guy better than another. But to me, coming back for, more time in the uniform after the Achilles injury, I think that matters to a legacy. I think what he was going to do in the league, and certainly Magic has some of the same things. He's mentored a lot of players, but what he was about to do in the league and what he was doing in the league plays into the legacy portion of it. And fair or not fair, I do think that his passing now will be part of the legacy. It will be part of the story that sort of cements Kobe as the Laker legend. I don't really have a problem with that, because it's not us saying anything negative about Magic or Kareem or those other guys. It's just saying that from start to finish, this legacy of Kobe Bryant is probably number one in the hearts of the Los Angeles Lakers.
And Eric, one thing that's kind of come down since we've been recording is Mark Cuban came out and said that the number 24 will not be worn by another Mavericks player. He's retiring that number. Do you think that the league should do something where either 8 or 24 or both numbers get retired?
Ooh, yeah, I don't know. I mean, the word should is the only part that I hesitate to know how to answer that, because I think the league could do something. I think the league could recommend or at least encourage teams to make a choice along those lines. I think when we say should, it maybe makes it a little bit different, because it sets either a precedent of other past players. I know not a lot of players die tragically, but you start to run out of uniform numbers if you get down the road too much with what causes a number to be permanently retired. But look, I mean, the gesture of it if an owner like Mark Cuban wants to do that, I think it's great. And I have zero problem with it. And even though Kobe didn't play for any of those other franchises, if that's how they want to honor him and what he means to the game of basketball, I'm okay with that. I mean, haven't thought through it enough, but maybe not having it come down as a mandate that, you should retire those numbers.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And again, it's early in the process. It just caught me just kind of scrolling through Twitter and seeing it pop up that
Good
Cuban was
question.
going to do that. I think down the road, it is something to think about. And look, it's not that we're going to say that it's, if another player tragically passes, that this has to happen. But I think in the context of what Kobe has meant to the game and the impact he has and his position, no matter where you have him ranked, it's in the top 10 all time for sure. And to have one of those players that tragically passes so early in his life, I think that's where there could potentially be a case to be made there. I even saw Chris Mannix spring up in the All-Star game, having one team wear 24, having the other team wear 8. I thought that was kind of a cool idea, even if it's this year, even if that's something they wanted to do going forward, just something to just kind of honor the legacy of Kobe and kind of keep that burning. Because again, I think that's talked about earlier in the show. I think that's the one down the road when you look back at this of just not having him around the game, not having him with his kids around the game and his family around the game. As we get to do some of these older players, and look, there's a generation now that are on social media that when Bill Russell comes out, they don't know what it is. They're more worried about the, throwing out their okay boomer lines and things like that, where they don't even understand or respect what that guy did and how he set the league up. And I think Kobe was the next guy that could do that in 10 and 15 years down the road. As you said, when some of these players now where LeBron's going to be the next guy, and the generation after that, it could be a Luka Doncic or a Trae Young or some of these other younger guys that are coming up through the league. Zion could be the next guy where that's going to be. And it's going to get a couple of generations down where people aren't going to remember as much about Kobe. And they're going to look at him and and get into the stats, and they're not going to remember what it was like to watch him play and how good he was in these games. So that's where I'm okay with it if the league does it. I have no problem with it. I don't think it's unfair to other players that have passed. I think when you have a pillar of the game, a Mount Rushmore candidate for your league that tragically passes away, to keep that legacy going since he can't be there for these events, to have his number, to have something in his honor. Maybe it's not retiring his number. Maybe it's renaming one of the trophies after him or something to just keep that legacy going, because I think it's important, because we see now just the era that we're in, how quickly those things can fade away. And I think for a league like the NBA that's built on a lot of legacies, I hope that doesn't get forgotten down the road.
Yeah, for sure. I'd have to agree with that. And it would be remiss if we didn't at least now recognize that during the recording of this podcast, ESPN has broken the news that Orange Coast College baseball coaching legend John Altobelli, his wife Carrie, and unfortunately their daughter Alyssa, which was Alyssa was a teammate and friend of Gianna's. They have also been victims of this helicopter crash. So another family completely torn apart by this. And we knew that there was 7 other people outside of Kobe Bryant and his daughter. So the names were going to come, but now 3 of the names have been released. And so you have another athletic community, which would be the Orange Coast College. This man, John, was the coach there for 27 years, led them to 4 state titles, and had more than 700 wins. So another legend in the athletic world for the sphere of influence that he had. And then, of course, his wife and daughter. So again, more siblings, parents, and friends mourning this tragic loss of other life in this helicopter crash. So again, as we finalize and learn of the other victims, this episode is about Kobe, mainly because it's the sport that we love in basketball. And it's like we said earlier, the most notable name that we knew at the time. And, the impact is huge, absolutely enormous on the world of sports. But I think, Justin, as we talked about rankings and we talked about those types of things, I think what it made me realize today as I was thinking through a lot of that stuff is that, at the end of the day, whether Jordan is the GOAT or Kobe, some people think is the GOAT, LeBron, whoever comes after LeBron, a lot of that stuff is on paper. We can debate it, we can argue it, and it's a fun exercise. But I think when something just turns this quickly on a dime, and it's no longer even about where does Kobe rank all time, it's about this enormous hole in the sport of basketball because he's immediately gone. It just makes all those rankings seem irrelevant to the tune of these guys are humans. They're just guys where basketball is their job. But outside of that, they're people with families. And I think we need to give them some latitude to live too. A lot of players are emotional today. A lot of coaches emotional today. And we don't need to spectate their emotion, as a lot of people will do on Twitter, and they'll judge, how does this person react and how does this person react? And did they react the right way? Were they sad enough? Were they too sad? Were they whatever? We talked about Tiger Woods earlier. I just can't imagine, just from the human perspective, if I had just come off the golf course and been told that one of my friends was killed in a helicopter crash, I would be like, are you serious? This can't be real. And then they have a microphone in Tiger's face 5 minutes later interviewing him. It's like he hasn't even had time to process this. I mean, the human factor in all of this is what really hit me today. It is basketball and it is sports, but where does Kobe rank all time? Who cares?
That's well said. And even going over this show, seeing everything break today and knowing that we wanted to do this tonight, we specifically talked about leaving all that stuff out of it. That's not what this is about. It's about the greater impact on the game and seeing that play out today in real time. And sadly, a lot of times that happens in someone's passing instead of when they're alive. So hopefully that's a lesson for all of us to take more time, because you just don't know how quickly things can turn. And I think that just the timing of everything with just this past week and seeing the Kobe stories, and even last night on Saturday night when LeBron passed Kobe, all the kind of the love that poured out for Kobe, even from that. And then on the heels of the anniversary of the 81-point game, it's just the incredible timing of how all this happened today, Eric. That's just the shocking thing. But I think for today's show, we just wanted to leave it as sort of just expressing everything that we felt today and what we felt as basketball fans, and two people that really grew up watching Kobe. We were teenagers when Kobe came into the league, and we followed his career all the way through. And that's kind of one of the crazy things that we've talked about sort of offline, of when you get to a certain age and you start following guys where you remember them from either coming out of high school or right into their pro careers, and you follow them for their entire career, and then they retire and you're following them through that as well. That, I think, is where it hits multiple generations with Kobe's passing. So we'll be back next week with a show that you're more used to. We do have the Super Bowl coming up. The teams are traveling in for that. A lot of those guys have tweeted out their condolences and their emotions, but there will be a Super Bowl next week. There's a lot of NBA action to cover as the league will recover from this. There's a lot of storylines playing out there. And I think, Eric, next week will be when we hit all that. But today it was just keeping it all about Kobe.
My brain, it cannot process failure. It will not process failure, because if I sit there and have to face myself and tell myself you're a failure, I think that's almost worse than death. Thank you for listening to this episode of Talk Back. Staying current on sports is our #1 goal, so we drop a new episode each Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or the podcatcher of your choice. For more info about the show, to meet the host, or to partner with us on future episodes, please visit TalkBackFanTalk.com. We really enjoy hearing your take on the world of sports, even when you disagree. After all, this show is dedicated to you, the fans. So get direct access to us on Twitter using @TalkBackJustin
and at TalkbackEric. Check out our corporate feed on